Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to GeekWatch, a subsidiary of the Monastery, the open bar of the internet. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have 1, 2, 3 good brothers. Ha 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 ha. We have the man with all the contracts and the man who would like to ask you a question. Good brother JT.
That's me.
We have the man guiding you through all of your manga dubs, and apparently does a better Goku than Sean Schemmel. Low bar. Good brother Shades.
I would just like to point out that yes, folks, that is actual comments I've received about my voice in my manga dubs. I'm not even fucking kidding, and it's happened numerous times where I've gotten that comment. It's not even just a one-time thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And of course,
I've had several people tell me I sound like Sean Schemmel. I'm like, what the fuck?
I'm not sure whether you should be impressed or insulted.
Yes.
Good answer.
Good answer.
Oh. And of course, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadare Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
If only. My kingdom for more time in the day.
Monk, I gotta call you out. Did you not get what I sent you yesterday?
And I think I know the problem. The problem
Here,
is
allow me to...
OBS didn't update.
Here, just to be safe, I'll resend it to you, because, yeah, I sent you an updated version of that splash screen.
That's on that. I think what happened was when I did the update with OBS, some stuff didn't carry over properly. It's not the first time this kind of thing has happened.
Shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
You asked for me to add something, I added it. And I want to make sure, like, I put the work in there, damn it, I want it seen.
Yeah, that. So let me.
You should be able to just add it right in, and it should just plop right over it. It's the
same
size.
Yep. So let me fix that. So you should be seeing it in a few seconds.
Stream delay.
Yes, gotta love it.
Do you know what's really funny? There is a... yes. Yes, of course you had to add that in there.
Yes. Mike specifically requested I added that in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're pretty big Gainax buffs around here, Matt. Hey, Kier, how's it going?
Although, Matt, I want to make something perfectly clear. If you're expecting us to talk about things like we're nostalgia tards, Razor Fist is that way. I am a historian. I am not a nostalgia tard. There is a very clear difference.
Hi.
That's a case of shots fired!
Not to mention the fact this is more about what happened to Gainax as a studio than its animes.
Which we will talk about, but if it was just about how good the anime is over the years, that would not be all that compelling.
Mm-hmm.
A key thing to keep in mind whenever we talk about what sort of topics is what sort of angle we can do and what sort of narrative we can present. Like, just to use an example from a previous work, let's consider the episode we did on silent protagonists. It could be easy to focus on good or bad silent protagonists, but what I wanted to focus on instead with that is the right place and the wrong place to use that concept.
And we did.
Mm-hmm.
We did.
Yep.
There's always something more we like to discern from the subject.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just want to look at the good and the bad. We want to use these particular subjects as a teaching tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If we were just going over which ones were good and which ones were bad, we'd be no different from any of the bottom tier AniTubers out there. And I'm sorry, but I don't want to be associated with Jeff Thu.
I may do a quick video on the matter, but I do not consider myself an AniTuber. I don't even consider myself a TTRPG tuber. I consider myself the monk who does whatever the fuck he wants.
Freedom!
However, if we do want to take a brief moment to talk about the work that Gainax has done, I've come prepared for that.
All right.
Set us up, Shades.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, Studio Gainax, ladies and gentlemen, formed in the early 1980s as Daikon Film by a group of university students. These guys started out basically with just making some shorts for known as Daikon. Well, it started out with Daikon 3 at the 20th annual Japan National SF Convention. And which was an interesting little number because basically it was about a girl who fights monsters, robots, and spaceships from all forms of media, not just anime. We're talking on top of Ultraman, Gundam, and stuff like that. We also had Star Trek, Star Wars, and other things in there, even throwing some Toku with Ultraman and Godzilla. Then, if you want to talk about the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen in your fucking life, go watch their follow-up short, Daikon 4, back in 1983.
Twilight.
And a full-on music video extravaganza, adding a whole bunch of crazy stuff.
Let me run down the list of some of the crazy that shows up in this thing, and I'm pretty sure there's some stuff I'm gonna miss. We have Gundams, Darth Vader, a Xenomorph, a Valkyrie, a Pern Dragon, Aslan, a Klingon battlecruiser, and Spider-Man, and Stormbringer from the Elric books.
Not to mention a pan across a vast array of hundreds of other characters from many different franchises. Like, this would be a copyright lawyer's worst nightmare.
Let's put it this way. They did the Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny before Newgrounds existed.
He's not kidding. It's
To be fair, something like this was never really meant for wide distribution. This is equivalent to any opening video you see at the first day at any convention, or the broad music video /production / presentation that introduced the cast that shows up every year at, say, MetroCon.
Yeah. Hell, you know what this was? This was basically one of the first AMVs, in a sense. Even though it didn't use official footage, it was basically an AMV.
And
anyway, from there, Gainax started working on their own official works. So one of their first official things was Royal Space Force: The Wings of Homines,
which was an absolute nightmare, which we'll be getting into later.
Yeah. But of course, and they worked on some other projects, including Nadia, The Secret of Blue Water, and Appleseed, among other things. And of course, their big production, Gunbuster, back in 1988. But of course, But of course, if you're talking about Gainax, you cannot overlook the absolute, no matter how you look at it, the classic, whether for good and for ill, that was in 1995, Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Which Anno had a hard time with because he was still reeling from his failures in Nadia, but that's a different story.
Oh, we'll get to that, I'm sure.
One particular thing that is going to be a recurring motif is things being
anime. Mahara Gun, a sequel to Gunbuster known as Die Buster, Otaku no Video, Re Cutie Honey, and then we go into the 2000s. I have to mention Girl Lagan, of course. Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt was a big one. Medica Box.
Which I have to say, the fact that there's a fucking sequel to this coming out 10 years
What the fuck?
Yeah. Yes.
Everybody thought that ending where they were talking about gathering all the pieces and everything on the last episode was just a joke because Gainax does a lot of joke endings, or at least they were known to at that point. And then 10 years fucking later, PSG2. What the fuck? But I digress.
Yes, you digress.
Yeah. So, to say that Gainax has had a legacy of noteworthy titles over the years is an understatement. There's a reason why Gainax is considered, at least in terms of the anime that they've released, a legend in the industry. But that's not to say that legend doesn't come with a big old asterisk and a whole mess of problems, as we will be discussing here tonight. Because, yeah, for all of the good it's done, it has dealt with a lot of bad.
You know, for all the Gainaxing that Gainax did in their shows, you never thought they'd be Gainaxing their finance as well.
Yeah.
Before we even get into that, I think it... Actually, you know what? I'm going to hold off on that. Because I think we do have to discuss the nature of the term Gainax ending, even though the term... It's still being used, but it's not being used as much as it was.
It's fading. It's fading out of vogue.
A Gainax ending, for those who don't know, is basically when, at the end of most Gainax anime, shit just goes completely off the rails.
And that usually has to do with budget constraints.
It started mainly with budget constraints, Evangelion being the prime example of this.
Everybody remembers the last 2 episodes of TV, right? The Technicolor LSD trip? I love those episodes.
Good fucking Christ. But then they kind of just decided to turn that into a running gag, where all of their shows...
Right just completely trolling the audience at the last minute.
Yes, they do that a lot.
Or the one thing that the Trigger crew took from Gainax when they went to go make Trigger, the suddenly we're in space endings, which Trigger is getting better about. Actually, I might add, I'm very happy about that.
They're getting better. They're growing up. They're maturing.
But the suddenly we're in space endings were kind of annoying, and it's only through sheer dint of luck that the suddenly we're in space ending of Gurren Lagann was good.
Yeah, the other 2 times Trigger tried it, Kill la Kill, it was they did go into space technically during that final battle. Let's call a spade here. Not bad, not great, but not bad.
Okay,
then there's Darling in the Franxx.
No. Trigger was not involved with the second.
It was not.
No, Cure is wrong here because Frank, the second half of Franxx was not touched by Trigger in the slightest. They were only on the first half.
That explains a lot more than it should.
And then they removed Franxx from their known works on their website.
Because they did not want to be associated with that pile of garbage.
Zan,
you
realize what they just did, don't you? They
memory hold
it.
Ha!
Oh!
Yeah. What's a Postal 3 monk? I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go. So this is a common thing where they do that. So Gainax endings are quite the notorious thing. And but Gurren Lagann was the only one who got it right, mainly because they had already kind of designed the story to build up to be more and more ridiculous. So by the time they got into space, you're like, yeah, there's really not much else you could do to be more ridiculous unless going into space and then throwing literal galaxies at each other. And no, that is not an exaggeration. That is exactly what they did.
Just shut up and watch the show. Just shut up and watch the show if you haven't. You owe it to yourself.
No explanation will do it justice. You have to see it for yourself. It's one of my top 10 favorite.
I was
Stuff
there
with,
in
like, Shinhan to do what
2007
they
with
did.
fans.
Because it's very much that same vein, where they added a lot of flair to their subs.
Okay, now we're getting nostalgic. But
Yeah, now we are getting nostalgic, but let's get back on the rails here. But you can see just how much influence Gainax has had over the years because of how much their anime has changed the industry. We were actually talking a little bit about this before the show with stuff like their use of music. You know, these days it's almost a rule of thumb that you have to have licensed music from artists that are not made specifically for the show. You know, stuff where it doesn't even mention the show's name in the opening song. Gainax kind of started that trend.
Which, I'm going to be honest, may actually have been to their detriment, because there were some really banger 80s shows that had their theme songs that, you know, were based around the actual show and thus, you know, had like the name in the chorus or whatever. In no particular order, Elgheim, Dragnar, Heavy Metal Dragnar, I can keep going, actually.
A lot.
Mazen Kaiser?
Mazinger.
Yeah. You could just list off all the stuff that Ichiro Mizuki has been involved with, and you'd have half the work done. But the big reason that came up is because, and I do want to spend a bit more time talking about this another day. But there's this narrative among AniTubers that that Super Robot Works from the 70s were just a bunch of kids shows until Gundam came along, and all of a sudden now they started doing actual storytelling.
Go watch the original Mazinger Z and Getter Robo and tell me that again, you fucks.
Or for that matter, just read the manga for Getter Robo and tell me that that's a toy commercial.
Yeah,
I
think
just read anything Go Nagai or Ken Ishikawa did. You will be wrong.